listening to Radio Sputnik. Telling the untold.
Welcome to Political Misfits on Radio Sputnik, where we bring you news, politics, and culture without the red and blue treatment. My name is Jamal Thomas. I am here with my co-host, Bob Schlehuber. Let's get ready to go against the grain. We have another good show for you today. I'll be kicking off hour one discussing the $484 billion Corona deal that just passed the Senate. I can't honestly tell if Democrats are mind-bendingly worthless or just heartlessly conniving. I'll explain what I mean in a moment. A bit later, we'll be discussing a recent report on shocking rates of infection in Los Angeles. Also, with the rates dramatically higher than originally thought, what does this mean for the transmission of the virus through businesses that continue to remain open as a necessary service? Later in the first hour, we'll be discussing Trump's new glitter bomb, his executive order temporarily banning immigration into the United States. I call it a glitter bomb because it's only to distract. For one, our consulates are not granting interviews necessary for visas for immigration that someone who is trying to immigrate into the United States would require in order to kickstart that process. Also, the United States is the epicenter of the coronavirus at this point. Nowhere is even close. Spain has a quarter of our number. And we are, at this point, around 800,000. Who is migrating to the United States under these conditions? We have a perfect storm in regards to not having a healthcare system, in regards to forcing people to go to work, in regards to these protests that are out there. Who on earth is migrating to the United States? Which means, why or what is the real reason that Trump is doing this? We're going to talk about that later in the first hour. In the second hour, we're going to continue with domestic politics, with a conversation on what Joe Biden's foreign policy will look like. Also, a recent study shows that American attitudes towards China on both sides of the political spectrum are decidedly negative. Considering Biden and Trump have been scapegoating China for either blame or political points, I suppose the numbers, regardless of how high, are not all that shocking. Last but not least, today is Hump Day. Now, I don't mean this in a dirty way, unless that strikes your fancy. There's no judgment here. I just mean that today is our Revelation segment. Now, this is one of my favorite segments. Typically, I am on here talking about UFOs or consciousness or something that's just kind of far out there. The topic today is out there. It's astonishing, but in an entirely different way. We're going to deal with real-world politics, but a revelation in the political space. So definitely stay tuned for that. That's always a good segment. But let's start here. We have another stimulus bill. Congress, the Senate, finally got together and came up with a stimulus bill. This is Political reporting. The agreement centers around providing $380 billion for small businesses and also includes $75 billion for hospitals, $25 billion for disease testing. It comes after a brutal conflict between party leaders over how to pass a massive bill with the Senate in recess. A pair of conservative Republicans, Mike Lee of Utah and Rand Paul of Kentucky, railed against the process on Texas afternoon, but allowed the bill to go through without objecting. The House is expected to take up the legislation on Thursday with overwhelming bipartisan support, per Senate House aides. Now, yes, it may have overwhelming support in the House. But not everybody is happy about this. I am not. And just so happens, now there's AOC. Let's hear AOC push back on this particular bill.
And if we are going to bring every member or call back almost every member who can back to DC to pass a small incremental bill, and with the knowledge that we are not coming back until next month again, that's 2 rent checks. And the last time we left, again, we lost over 9/11's worth of people due to this lack of action. And so we really need to acknowledge that this small bill, whilst again, something is better than nothing. And frankly, Democrats fought very, very hard to get basic things like testing. Republicans didn't want to fund hospitals. They didn't want to fund mass testing, which is what is actually going to allow us to reopen the economy. So I appreciate the strides that they made in that. But ultimately, in voting on the text of this bill, knowing that we are abdicating our responsibility.
Yes, that's exactly what you're doing. The House of Representatives is owned by the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi. It is not as if Nancy Pelosi can't pass legislation in order to rival whatever the Republicans are coming up with and forcing the Republican parties to deal with it. They don't do that at all. They are effectively folding themselves in lockstep with whatever else the Republicans is coming up with, meaning they're just responding. They don't have this kind of uniform vision of what they want to do. There was a poll, I think it was back in 2016, that says, what does the Democratic Party stand for? And the overwhelming majority of the people in the poll said it stands for being in opposition to Trump. I would wager the same thing will be true here. This is the moment where they should be knocking this out of the park. You're in the middle of a pandemic. You're part of the Democratic Party. You scream to high heaven about being for universal health care. And in the middle of a healthcare crisis where people are stuck in their homes, the best that you guys can come up with is $1,200. $1,200. Again, it's not as if the Democratic Party couldn't pass legislation from the House to rival whatever the Republican Party is coming up with and have a fight over what gets through. They're fighting over testing. Understand what I'm saying? They're fighting. Meaning the Democratic Party is fighting tooth and nail just to get testing in the bill. That's like saying, I take care of my kids. That's not something you should have to fight for. And even if you are fighting for it, you should wring the Republicans' neck using that particular point. But using the House of Representatives, meaning the fight that you're having in the Senate shouldn't just be in the Senate, it also should be in the House, because that's the area to which you control. What is going on with the Democratic Party? Are they that weak, or are they that politically conniving? Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Donald Trump is taking on a particular political strategy where his plan is basically, I am representing the interests of the 1%. That's all he's done the entire time he's been in office. And in pursuit of representing the interests of the 1%, I want to get people back to work because I represent the owner class, and that owner class is not going to be out there at 8 hours working, bussing tables or working at some particular store or some restaurant or massage therapy place. No, they're the owner class. They're going to hang in front of their $12,000 icebox. They're going to eat their ice cream, and they're going to call and cash their checks. That's what they're going to do. It's everybody else. It's us that ends up in the process of working at those particular organizations, putting our lives at risk. Now, the catch here is that this particular bill, or that Donald Trump, or that particular strategy that Donald Trump is going along with, is trying to incentivize people to agitate and go out and doing exactly what they're doing. Meaning all of these people who are in all of these various states to some degree are being manipulated. No, I don't necessarily like to take away agency from people, but it is literally the political strategy that Donald Trump is going on with. And the Democratic Party is going along with it. I hope you understand what I mean. When Trump mentioned the $1,200 checks, which is nothing, they didn't get rid of the people's bills, they didn't get rid of their expenses, they didn't get rid of their car note, house note, electric bill, all of these other bills that these people have to deal with, and your government gives you $1,200. You've paid into this government regarding taxes for the entirety of your life. $1,200. And Mnuchin comes out and says that should last people for about 10 weeks. They withheld the checks. They held up the checks just to put Trump's name on it. And while I understand the political effect of it, think of the level of callousness that's associated with doing something like that. Money that those people need to subsist, that you recognize they need to subsist. 43% of the population has either lost their job or is losing hours in their jobs. Meaning you have a large share of this population that is vulnerable, that is struggling. And what does Trump do? Nothing. At least not in the real terms of making sure that the American public is whole and taking rational policy to ensure that they're not incentivized to go outside and agitate to get back to work. My point is the strategy that Donald Trump is taking is explicitly in the interest of the 1% to create as much havoc and stress within the population as possible to incentivize these people to agitate in the exact way they're agitating to open up the economy. He doesn't want his hands entirely on it because it's against what the experts want. But if he believes he can get this kind of astroturf of people showing up around the nation saying, open it up, open it up, open it up, that maybe he can get enough political will to do so. It is massively cynical politics because, again, the entire point of this will get people killed. What does he do for the secondary argument, though? Fox News. Because Fox News has started to take the argument that basically people die. And in the pursuit of starting up the economy, it's okay if people die. So meaning all of this stuff is just political casting. The catch becomes, what is the Democratic Party doing? I can't curse. I don't want to curse. What is the Democratic Party doing? How do you have a branch of government and you allow the Republican Party to effectively run the House? That the public looks at Trump and believes that Trump is more effective than Joe Biden dealing with this particular issue, despite the fact that Trump is utterly incompetent and he has gotten thousands killed. Do you realize that drug that Donald Trump has been telling people to use has killed more people and has not necessarily shown effectiveness to deal with the disease? That's Trump. But they've allowed him to run the House on this. My question is why? Are they that weak and ineffective? And if so, we have a severe problem. Because we've allowed no accountability in the political process for so long that when you actually need them to deal with a crisis and be effective in dealing with that crisis for anything more than token gestures, then they can't do it. They fall flat. They should be knocking this out of the park and they're falling flat. The other side, are they just that politically conniving? Meaning they understand what Trump is doing, but they also understand that this pathway is going to end up getting a lot of people killed. And in the process of getting a lot of people killed, Trump may actually end up losing that election if he can't find somebody else to blame. I don't know which one it is. Bob, help me out. Is it just utterly conniving or utterly worthless?